Hello and welcome. This is the Restore Tranquility channel, and my name is Shervon Larice, founder of Restore Tranquility.
And now I'm Cerise Scott, a licensed therapist as well as a cannabis educator and coach.
And today we're going to be talking about AI. As we have noticed, AI is everywhere. People are talking about it everywhere. So many platforms are starting to implement it, and people are finding it helpful. Other people are a little bit afraid of it.
Yeah.
I was a little sketchy on AI, but there are some aspects of AI that I have found helpful in my own life. ChatGPT being one of them.
Absolutely.
A friend of mine introduced me to that, and I was like, I don't know about that. But then I started using it, and I was like, okay, I can see where this can be helpful. And so I don't put a lot of personal information on there, but it is helpful to get some things done or ask questions. I'm about to take a big trip later this year, so it's been really helpful to ask asking questions, planning and looking up things. So that's been wonderful. And so we're going to be looking at AI and exploring how AI can affect mental health and well-being, and where in the mental health field it's already starting to be rolled out and what we're seeing.
So I guess we can first start with all these AI different apps and tools that people can just kind of download to their phone. There's a few that I've heard that do more of a cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
So give you the strategies that way, which I think that's pretty interesting. I'm wondering if there's a DBT one because I think that would be more.
I have not seen that one.
I haven't seen it,
that would be great.
That would be a lot more, beneficial because how people want the DBT programs like still filtered out.
Yep.
AI, I think would actually be good for that one specifically.
Yeah.
And then there's one I heard that does a voice detection that can detect suicidal intent as well as depression in your voice and your facial structure and like those type of things, which I think that's like really great for early detection. But I also am concerned about who they flagging that might not be the right, right person, right facial structure, like whose facial structure are they using to really be able to even pick up on those type of things.
Absolutely.
So it's funny because there was a 2023 study that showed that AI bots, chatbots help with mild anxiety, but do struggle with deeper trauma.
Yeah.
So they do struggle to actually see with that deeper trauma, generational trauma, or even cultural like nuances, like what they look like.
Exactly. And I think that is probably in part because as a cultural whole in the United States, that kind of trauma gets missed all the time.
Absolutely.
Because it's nuanced and it's also very cultural. And so what one person may see, another person might not.
Right. And I think that's what the human component comes into it. But one thing with AI and all of these different apps is that they are technically 24-hour, 24/7 accessibility, right?
That's right.
They are more accessible, more convenient, but then it's like, well, how convenient does therapy need to be if you're, we want you to focus on therapy and actually be in therapy and sit with your feelings and be present in the moment versus being distracted, texting, and then also jumping in the app and saying something to someone and then getting back into the your whole rest of your life.
That's right.
When do you take that pause for yourself? That's why therapy is important, to pause and be present. So
and to go deeper.
Definitely go deeper.
The surface level. Yeah. One of the other benefits of AI and mental health is the anonymity.
Yes.
Right. There are so many people who are fearful to step into mental health sphere, maybe because they've heard things that maybe are inaccurate, but they don't know that. There are also people, we are here in Maryland and we work with a number of people who are connected to the federal government, and depending on your clearance, you don't want to be in therapy. You don't want it on your record that you're ever in therapy. So that anonymity is very key for a lot of people and can be very helpful, especially I guess if their depression or anxiety or whatever's going on for them is not too severe.
Right.
They could access those kinds of things. Yeah.
And again, I think that would be good, especially for that mild anxiety. You have maybe like an important business meeting coming up and you're having that anxiety, or you feel like you want to be up for a promotion and you're just like, I don't know how to ask these questions, or those some of those are like you said, the CB CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy
Mhm.
strategies would be really helpful and be able to kind of manage that mild anxiety.
Right.
But for us, I think for AI, I think it's really good because it does help us to make a little bit more personalized for treatment plans.
Yes,
Treatment
that does
plans
help.
and track the progress a little faster.
Yep.
Because treatment plans we usually do every like 90 days.
Right.
And so for AI to kind of pick up on, hey, we talked about this, we talked about that, make sure you add this to the treatment plan, it would just bring a little bit more attention that maybe, some therapists may not necessarily miss, but it's like, what's the most prominent
Yes.
issue?
Exactly. And when you have a full caseload of people that you're working with, you're not going to remember 90 days back for 20 people.
Right, exactly.
Right? For everybody who came in at various times. So
Mhm.
you kind of being able to use AI in that way is helpful. Also in writing notes.
Yes.
Getting
Oh,
notes written
absolutely.
faster.
So I know we both do some other like platforms that do integrate that. And so the platform I'm on specifically, they do ask the clients whether or not they're okay with it.
Yeah.
But what I am seeing is that in some insurance companies or EAP companies have opted out. So therefore, when I'm doing it, if I'm sitting there talking to them, sometimes I have to check and realize that, oh, they don't have this feature. So make sure I'm taking a little bit more mental notes instead of even like just being more present in being able to listen fully versus keeping in my mind, okay, I need to put that in the note. I need to put that in the note because there's certain things that we have to be very specific about, and there's certain things that we don't want to put in the note.
That's right.
And for insurance, for privacy, confidentiality. So one thing I do like is when I do like those smart notes or AI notes, I like to have the clinical opinion to still be able to edit it to make sure that they're not even, first of all, using the right pronouns for the client.
That's right.
Making sure that anything that the client said that I know that they would not want on their notes, I'm taking that out.
That's right.
Making sure that it's still remaining private, and also just an overall general statement versus being specific about this person told me this person at that time, this time, like just trying to make sure that we're taking out, the really personal information.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other platform that I work with has also incorporated AI in a very similar way, and it also gives clients the option to opt in or to opt out. And it is helpful to be able to kind of see even the flowery way that AI writes, which is definitely not the way I write. I am super clinical.
right. Straight to the point. We're
Real to the point. I'll do bullet points if I can. But it writes in whole sentences and it kind of makes it sound nice.
Yeah. That sounds like we did some good work there, like
exactly. And it cuts down on the time it takes to do treatment plans and notes.
One thing I would say that when it comes to the AI and especially about treatment plans is for at least the platform I'm on, the second session I have to do a treatment plan.
Yeah.
It's like we have to do it, but as we still are kind of getting to know the client, we find little things that still come up. Because that first session, people are like they might be venting, but there's also some things that they're holding very close that they're not ready to get out yet.
That's right, and it may not come in the first, second, or third session.
Exactly. So therefore, it's like for our own clinical understanding, it's like knowing that we might have to go back a few sessions in and be like, let's change this a little bit to make sure that this matches. Right. So in 90 days, I'm not being like, this has nothing to do with what we're currently talking about.
That's right.
And just making sure that it matches correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Some of the other benefits are the reducing, in some ways, AI can help reduce the bias in making assessments. There have been experiences, and so the population that I tend to work with are usually women, women of color or people of color, and folks from the GLBTQ plus communities. And for years in my early career, I would hear about people going to therapists who were not in their cultural reference and who would then pathologize something about them that is completely cultural for them. And so AI does take that piece out, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it then adds in other biases,
Right.
right?
And so, and I think that's a good segue, I think, too, like just talk about the different biases or maybe the challenges that AI does have, which when it comes to AI, the training data, what data are you at? Are they feeding it? Is it already biased data that's
Right.
coming in, right? Depending on whose voices are they using? Is it a cultural like they're doing different languages to do this detection of suicidality and depression? Is
Mhm.
it, when they say facial recognition, whose face are they using? Are they using European faces, African American, like all the different nuances of that, right?
Yeah.
But also I'm also wondering about just how in general recognizing symptoms, because even
Yes.
for depression with specifically women of color comes out more in frustration and irritability than sadness and unable to get
out
hit
of
a
bed.
bed, right?
Yep.
So again, how would AI be able to adapt to that?
That's right.
If they're being fed information that this is what depression looks like versus this is what it culturally looks like for people of color?
That's right.
So that's interesting. So I did see a study in 2019 showing that Black patients or people of color were 40% less likely to be flagged for high risk conditions by AI.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, definitely.
Yeah, and I think, and we see that throughout, especially the Black and Brown communities, because there's almost this unspoken, sometimes joked about, way that we talk about, especially depression. We don't have time for depression, or I
Yeah.
don't have time to be depressed.
Yeah.
I gotta go to work, gotta feed these kids, we got rent to pay, bills to pay, whatever the term is. I know that I remembered hearing it as a little kid, that we don't have time for depression. So depression does look different
Yeah.
for us.
It's functional
Yeah.
depression.
It is
It's
quite.
very functional,
It's
where we're
quite.
still getting up and going places, but we are that numb or maybe that just irritability, frustration inside that we just can't get rid of, and it
Yeah.
sits on us.
Or constant tired or exhausted feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that? I can't think of the name. Oh, I'm gonna regret this, but like, was it like a Sunday Blues, or it's the one where the lady's sitting on the side of the bed and she looks exhausted. There's no face of her though, but she's just
Yes.
like the closure just hanging off her. She's just like, but that's the
That's it.
depiction of depression. I feel like
That's
for
it.
when it comes like I'm just tired going through the motions.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So let's think about the fact that there's a lack of now human interaction because now you're doing AI, right? So AI, so you miss the fact of when you actually sit with a therapist, we read your body language, we hear what
Yes.
you're saying.
Yeah.
It hits the fact that you have to actually now talk to another person,
Yeah.
right? And be like actually be communicative and figure out whether or not you have the right communication skills to even talk about the things that you want to talk about.
Yeah, and feel that sense of human connection.
Yeah.
That even through a screen, a lot of people missed during the pandemic. Like I come into into this office at least once a week to meet with clients because they got tired of seeing people through a screen. They wanted human in-person interaction. So now with taking AI, you're taking that even farther away. Yeah.
I think the pandemic really did like a number on us when it comes to trying to like push the thing of we don't need to have that human interaction because we couldn't, but now it's like people are now like choosing not to in a way, right? And AI just came in and was like, well, make it even easier that we really don't have to do any of this anymore, you know?
Indeed. And I guess that works for some people who are super, super introverted or super shy. Maybe, but most of us are social creatures.
Yeah. And I think that's something, so, human therapists are able to recognize the microaggressions, the generational trauma, the environmental triggers and stressors that AI probably would not be able to pick up on.
Exactly, very true. I think also we have to think about the therapist to client relationship. Rapport is built into that, and that is therapeutic.
Yes.
Right? Just because you can tap into AI, I mean, we can all pick up a book, right? Self-help is a $1 billion+ industry. We can all pick up books, we can all go into platforms and read information that will help us move to the next stage of whatever we're looking to move through. But when you hire a person to work with you,
Yeah.
it does something. It makes the information stick. And so when you're meeting with a therapist in person or at least over a screen and there's another human, that therapeutic relationship builds.
Yeah, because if you
Right.
now feel like you can trust the person that you're sitting across from,
Absolutely.
you can feel like you can, like, even though you were maybe uncomfortable or maybe fearful of what may have come out of the session,
Yeah.
you still can be like, okay, I know this person who's had my best interest and they're not going to lead me down
Absolutely.
this path that I'm not ready for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cerise Scott. I'm a licensed clinical counselor as well as a certified cannabis educator and coach. I'm here to introduce our cannabis coaching program through Restore Tranquility. Here we have a coaching program where we can not only incorporate more wellness into your routine, but have you better education, setting your intentions and knowledge about cannabis use, as well as how it can be more therapeutic for you, for your mind, body, and spirit, and including that holistic approach from a licensed therapist as well as a coach and educator. So more than anything, it is a stigma-free environment. Judgment is not here, but we want you to be comfortable using these therapeutic modalities and alternative medicines. So if you are interested, please click the consultation link below and schedule a quick 20-minute consultation with me, and I'll be happy to share my experience as well as share my education with you guys. Thanks. Bye.
One of the things that when I was going through school for my degree, and we talked about there was such a difference in the room between those of us who were people of color in the class and our European counterparts. And we, we were taught, in that very
Yeah.
keep your blank face, Freudian, you don't share anything about yourself. The rest of us were like, well, that's not how we roll in our communities.
Yeah.
I mean, we have like the auntie thing going on.
Yeah.
Right? When you want somebody to talk to, you go to talk to your auntie or your grandma or, somebody older in the community, and you get those warm, connected feelings.
Don't hug a client.
Oh, yeah, don't hug a client. Oh, yeah, that came up in one of my classes. We were like, I don't know about that. And I've been a therapist for over 21 years. If a client asks me, do you hug? I'm going to say yes, because that is part of the therapeutic relationship. I have never gotten a weird vibe from
right.
around that ever.
And so it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I remember, like, don't offer a tissue because that means that you will stop them from crying. It's like, no, I'm trying to cover, like,
Yeah.
So it's just so interesting. Don't have pictures up of your family because it might trigger them that way. Like, there was so much, like, we have to stay in this really neat box. And Siobhan, I just want to say, just me getting my full license, last year, and then really kind of seeing how you run your private practice. It's like, so I can do it this way. It doesn't have to stay in this nice neat box.
Right.
Being a graduate student, it was more like everyone wanted you to stay in this box.
Yes, sterile.
Right, very much so. So I appreciate for just us kind of coming together and being able to know that there's other ways to just do this, but that are still within our ethical guidelines that say, hey, we're not doing harm to our client, but this is how we culturally build our rapport and actually be able to reach clients that might not even consider therapy for other different cultures. So.
Absolutely, and that is not available in AI.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. So I guess my second thing I want to talk about, or the third, I think at this point, is the privacy and ethical concerns.
Absolutely. There's the HIPAA laws,
Right.
and things are always being hacked.
Yes, always.
Yeah. So that's a key thing, a key concern to be aware of when you're like uploading your information to these kinds of platforms. Like not putting in too much information. So that's one.
Yeah. So who has access to it and how is it actually being used?
Yep.
And I want to say it was one of the bigger companies, I think in 2021, I think it was BetterHelp. They actually ended up their user data was allegedly shared with advertisers.
Oh.
Right? So it's just like now, after I done put in all this stuff about myself, now, and we already on our phones get all these advertisements that clearly are listening to us. Whether you talk about diamond ring, diamond rings be popping up on your phone, and you're just like, interesting Instagram, interesting Facebook, like, sure, but just noticing that, like, hey, what is my data? What is my privacy? And
Right.
how can I keep it from being protected? And it's a little bit harder when you're going on these platforms and they have AI and we just don't know what's really kind of being used for our data versus you come to a person.
Yeah,
We are with it, like our file cabinets got to be locked.
that's
even
right.
even the stuff that we use has a different platform, so it can't be accessed and
That's
it's not
right.
connected to the person's name,
That's
things
right.
like that. Like there's a lot more security measures, I think, when it's
That
actually
we have to follow.
yeah.
Yeah, we have to, if it's paper, we have to keep it locked away. If it's digital, there has to be all these passcodes
Yeah,
and
and different
verifications
yes,
and all
yeah.
of this kind of thing. But when you're on these other platforms, you have to be sure about what you're putting in and relatively sure that it's not going to get disseminated out.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's one.
I think sometimes people tend to over rely on AI. And don't get me wrong, because every email I send now, I polish it,
Yes.
elaborate it, formalize it, make it nice and formal. Like
Yes.
I do that because I just tell them this and this and make it sound pretty.
Yep.
Like, so I understand that.
Yep.
But there's also gonna be a thing of we don't want to rely on it too much where we're like serious mental health conditions that can
That's
kind of
right.
go undiagnosed.
That's right.
But I think, like we said, the whole human aspect of it and ethically, how can AI tell you have schizophrenia if you are more in a culture that does believe in spirits and dreaming and things like that? And
Right.
what they consider a hallucination is actually something that, it's culturally, it's known for your culture. Like,
Yes.
it's not abnormal in that sense.
That's right. Or you've had an experience with a psychedelic therapy and you've had a spiritual experience and you're using those words to describe it, would you be diagnosed as schizophrenic or manic at some point in that,
I guess I also worry about if these AI apps are actually diagnosing. That's what I think I worry about, because then how who's actually checking these diagnoses?
That's right. Is there human oversight?
Exactly, because if someone if that's gonna be if it's through an insurance company and they're doing the AI, right? And they all of a sudden say, oh, you have bipolar.
Right.
Bipolar is something that does not go away.
That's right.
And most insurances do not pay for it because it's a lifelong issue. So if that is now put in your insurance file,
it's there. It doesn't disappear.
And so then how do you fight with someone to say that, no, I don't have this?
Right.
Or who actually clinically met a person, not just the AI, and said that I actually had this diagnosis?
Exactly.
That's really hard. And I really hope that doesn't ever happen, but the headache of trying to fight someone saying that I don't have this diagnosis that a computer gave me.
Which is why so many high-ranking people with security clearances don't walk into mental health facilities because they do not need that diagnosis.
That headache,
in their paperwork. Because as soon as they do their checks, because they have to do those background checks periodically, it'll come up. And so a lot of people won't do it. They won't even a lot of them won't even go to marriage therapy.
I never even thought about that. Because because they would say that it's overlapping and falling into your work. It's making your life it's getting in the way of your duties.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So it's a thing.
A bunch of stigma I'm still hearing. We gotta still fight with the stigma, you guys. But I see that it's convenient. I see that it's accessible, but is it actually the best what's needed for the client, depending on what their actual symptoms are?
Yeah. I think it can be the most helpful for potential clients, someone who's not already accessing mental health services, they engage in one of these chatbots or something, and they realize, oh, there really is something going on. Let me then find a therapist.
So kind of like the referral out, like hopefully that bot will be able to say, hey, you should really seek someone for these concerns. And then they can at least come to us and be like, hey, I know that, you know, you're a licensed professional, but from this platform I was using, these are the things that they told me that I should talk to a therapist about.
Yep.
At least gives us a starting point to
It
go from
does.
there.
It does, because some people think, you know, there are people who are, I've met people who are super anxious and don't even realize it because everyone in their family is
Is that
just as
anxious?
anxious as they are, and
Yeah.
so they don't think anything is up with that.
It's normal. We function in our dysfunction
Yeah.
very much well, right?
Indeed, indeed.
And so I can understand how that can be difficult because
Yeah,
I have clients that come to me and it's like, are you sure it's not me? Like,
yeah.
and it's like, it's actually your family. It's the dynamics you grew up in. It's not like for you to try something different. But that's another thing that generational,
Mhm.
breaking generational curses, doing something different from what your family has already done all of these years, you will automatically be isolated and ostracized from that family. You're the black sheep.
Yep,
And then people have to, and then so how is AI going to catch on to that?
right.
Hey, I'm doing these things, my family. Well, maybe is it gonna tell them that they need to change their behavior? Or
Right.
is it gonna tell them that you need to go seek a therapist, like to actually get further evaluation? That's the
That's
concern.
it, that's it, exactly. Other concerns with AI?
I think we just have to like kind of like I guess full circle and just understand that it's a tool,
Yeah.
not to replace therapy.
That's right.
This human interaction is very important. Because there's certain things of why we went to school for our masters and then got licensed and then got credentialed and we had to keep up with our 40 CEUs every every 2 years. Like we have the repertoire to actually be able to handle these things versus what AI can do when it comes to more severe.
Absolutely.
And so just to again, it's okay to use it as a tool, like I use it for my
Yeah.
email, like I use it for these like getting planning a trip, things like that. But when it comes to more serious conversations, when it's more maybe even emotional focused, something that's not logical for a computer to be able to figure out,
Yep.
you come to therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also when you're engaging with AI on these platforms for mental health, just paying attention to privacy, remembering that HIPAA laws are there for a reason to protect us.
Yeah.
So prioritize security and privacy, and then always side on the option of seeking out therapy, a
Yeah.
human person. If cost is an issue, trying to use your insurance might be the best way to go, or working with a therapist who has a sliding scale. And here in Maryland, we have pro bono therapy. And
Yep.
so if you put in pro bono therapy into Google, it'll come up.
Yeah.
So there are many options to get to a human.
And I think more jobs are starting to offer the EAP services for at least 5 or 6 sessions, so you can at least get in and not that things will be solved in 5 or 6 sessions, but we can at least get somewhere where you can get a little bit more tools from the therapist to actually get you to a place where you're taking care of yourself a little bit more and able to function on your day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. I mean, I feel like just be mindful. If anything, that I would leave this with is when it comes to AI and mental health, just be mindful. Be mindful and be critical of what you're sharing. And if it seems off, see someone in person. See someone who actually you can talk to and kind of, dig a little bit deeper into that nuance and culturals and different things of trauma. Because if you know you have trauma, it might not be able to be picked up and might not be the best situation for AI. So just be mindful and be critical of that.
Right. There you go. So thank you for joining us. Again, this is Restore Tranquility. We are a mental health and wellness center down in downtown Silver Spring,
yes.
Maryland. And if you want to find out more about getting a consultation or connecting with us for any of our services, we will have a link for you down in the comment section.
All right. See you next time.